What makes this monitor so special is the color accuracy and a bunch of other cool features. This here is the new Lilmon5 from OSEE, a 5.5-inch monitor using the same internal 22-bit color processing as you will find in OSEE's bigger and more expensive production monitors. And at 1000 nits, it's definitely been bright enough for all the shoots that I've taken this monitor on so far. Now, before we get to the features inside of the monitor, let's first take a quick tour of the exterior. First up, we got the 5.5-inch touchscreen. It's glossy, but I think it handles both reflections and fingerprints quite well. And the monitor comes with a cloth, so you can keep everything nice and shiny. The screen resolution is 1920 by 1080, but it supports up to 4K DCI 30 frames per second. On this side here, we have Q20 mounting point for the included tilt arm, and we also have the power button, which by the way is the only physical button on this monitor. Everything else is done via touch. Now, moving on. So on the back side here, we have our Sony MPF battery plate. We also have a DC barrel connector here. On this side, we have our HDMI in and HDMI out. So this monitor has a loop through feature. Moving on to this side here, the first jack we have up here is a headphone jack, which I really like. Not all DSLR and mirrorless cameras have a dedicated headphone jack, so this is obviously great to have. This port here you can use for color calibrating the monitor. I really like that feature. Down here we have a battery out connection, which can be used to power things like focus motors, wireless transmitters, or if you're using dummy batteries for your camera, you can go ahead and plug that into the battery out connector here. Now, last place here to look is the bottom of the monitor, where we have another Q20 mounting point, and we also have our SD card slot for things like firmware upgrades and obviously for loading our LUTs onto this monitor. And while we're at it, let's talk just quickly about build quality. The monitor is built on an aluminum frame with a polycarbonate housing, and in my opinion it feels sturdy enough. I feel like it's going to handle the use of a run and gun shooter, getting thrown into a bag, pulled out, and well, normal type of use. I don't encourage anyone to drop their gear, but if you would, I'd say it'd probably survive unless you take a massive blow to the screen or something, but the rest of the casing here feels sturdy enough to withstand a fall. But after all, we are talking about a pretty affordable monitor here. But that said, I think build quality is, well, probably a tiny bit better than what you would expect from a monitor at this price point. Now, moving on to the inside of this monitor, that's where the most interesting features are at. So let's dive in. So what's great about the Swift OS menu system that OSEE use on this monitor is that you have all these customizable pages where you can add all the different features and settings, and you can obviously tweak everything for a specific camera or shooting scenario. So as an example, these two first ones here are set up for my Sony camera, and the other here are set up for my Fujifilm and Canon cameras. So as an example, on my Canon camera, I don't have any focus assist features. So if we bring up the Canon page, I have my focus assist, and I also have my focus peaking tools available. Whenever I need to pull manual focus on that camera, I can just call on these tools here and I have everything ready to go. And on top of things like focus peaking, you're also going to have access to tools like waveforms, scopes, multi-scopes, crop guides, safety margins, anamorphic de-squeeze, false colors, and much, much more. Now, if we dive into the LUTs department of this monitor, there's actually two features that I really wanted to include in this video. The first one is the LUT intensity slider, which you may have guessed by the name of it, lets you adjust the amount of any type of LUT you're applying in your monitor. So We all know that some of our favorite creative look LUTs can be a little heavy-handed. Well, on this monitor here, I hope you can see this, there's a little slider here that just lets you adjust the amount of that LUT, much like you do inside Premiere or Final Cut Pro when you're applying a creative look LUT. So that's one of my favorite features. Now, the second LUT related feature that I wanted to bring up on this monitor here is called probe location. Now, I know it sounds like something where you definitely would like to have some options, right? But what this feature allows you to do here on this monitor is to choose if you want to be monitoring your exposure before or after the applied LUT here on this monitor. This is going to be super helpful when you're shooting log and you really need to dial in a specific white point or exposure, and obviously when you're shooting in bright or really dark conditions using something like a creative look LUT, just to make sure that you're not over or underexposing your footage. So when it comes to color management and features, this monitor offers you tons and tons of control, but also tons of customization. Here's an example of what I mean. So if you are working in Premiere Pro, which have a 2.4 gamma as default, just go into colors on this monitor and make sure that you set your gamma value on the monitor to 2.4 as well. This way, what you're seeing on the monitor when you're out shooting should be the same as you will see on your timeline later on in Premiere Pro. So it's little things like this that makes me appreciate all the features this monitor has so much. Before I made this video, I made a post on Instagram and on YouTube asking you for your questions about this product. So I figured would answer 2 or 3 of those in this video here. And if you have more questions, we could probably do a follow-up. But the first question here is about battery life. So when I'm using one of these Sony NPF batteries, this is a 3700 milliamp battery, I'm usually getting somewhere around 3 hours, give or take 3 hours, which I think is pretty decent given its brightness and everything. It's definitely more power hungry than some of my other monitors that I have, but at the same time, they don't have the same 1000 nit output. The next question was about heat. Now, this monitor don't have any fans or internal cooling, so it will get pretty hot to the touch, especially when you're running it on full brightness. That said, it's not gonna burn your fingers or set fire to your hair, anything, but it's gonna be pretty warm to the touch. I want to wrap this video up with some of my favorite features and why I think this monitor is going to be the monitor that I would suggest or recommend to anyone looking for a 5.5-inch monitor at this price range. So first of all, we have the adjustments on the 3D LUTs on this monitor, which is going to make this so much more useful and helpful. And it's also going to allow you to be more creative on set when you're shooting and working with exposure and lighting and all that fun stuff. I also really like the fact that they've included a way for us to color calibrate this monitor. That just goes to show how serious OSEE is about color accuracy when it comes to even these monitors at this price range. That and the gamma, obviously, and the headphone jack is another great feature that will come in handy, especially if you're using cameras that don't have a dedicated headphone jack. I do have an idea about making a comparison video between the Lilmon5 and the Fieldworld F6 Plus, which I know is another super popular monitor option out there. So if you're interested in seeing a comparison video between these two, make sure to let me know what kind of specs and things that you would like to see me compare in that video. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!